The President of the United States has commenced his ambitious Democracy Summit. It's a two-day-long virtual affair with leaders from over 100 democracies logging in for their speeches.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the first Summit for Democracy. This gathering has been on my mind for a long time for a simple reason. In the face of sustained and alarming challenges to democracy, universal human rights, and all around the world, democracy needs champions. And I wanted to host this summit because here in the United States, we know as well as anyone that renewing our democracy and strengthening our democratic institutions requires constant effort. American democracy is an ongoing struggle to live up to our highest ideals and to heal our divisions, to recommit ourselves to the founding idea of our nation, captured in our Declaration of Independence, not unlike many of your documents. We say, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all women and men are created equal, endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, among them life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Democracy doesn't happen by accident. We have to renew it with each generation, and this is an urgent matter on all our parts, in my view.
The summit has been billed as a rallying call for human rights and liberty, especially after the West's back-to-back defeats, first in Afghanistan, then with Iran over nuclear talks, and Russia over Ukraine. There's a long list of guest speakers and on-air appearances, with civil society groups, activists and journalists all taking part. The guest list also features Taiwan. Not surprisingly, the biggest outrage against the summit has come from its exclusive targets, Russia and China. The two ambassadors to Washington have even penned a joint article denouncing the event as a product of Cold War thinking. China has described how democracy and dictatorship coexists, but skips contents like media freedom and judicial independence. The summit organisers have promised 3 focus points. Those are countering authoritarianism, fighting corruption, and promoting respect for human rights. And the issue of technology will run through all 3 of those. Well, for more on this, we have Susan Tarani joining us live from New York. Susan, what is the objective for the United States in holding this summit, and what is President Biden trying to achieve with it?
So the objective, Nick, as you mentioned, really is the fact to showcase the benefit of democracy over authoritarianism, and if handled successfully, really, I think it'll demonstrate that there is these shared values between these countries that can prove to be very competitive and they can move forward. But I think the challenge at the end of the day will be if whether or not it could be handled poorly, and then in that case it'll sort of show the divisive nature of these 100 countries on a lot of issues, and then that'll sort of throw the ball into countries like, in the court of countries like Russia and China. Well, they'll sort of benefit from a summit like this, calling it a cliche and whatnot. But, you know, it's a gesture. It's a gesture to show that at the end of the day, more countries are on the side of democratic values and freedoms. A lot of jargons are being used, as you mentioned. And it's nonetheless a positive note to have countries come together and discuss these issues. But then you have countries being invited like Pakistan and the Philippines that have raised some eyebrows. And then countries that are sort of trying to go on the path to democracy, like El Salvador and some other countries like that, which they haven't been invited. And when Jen Psaki was asked, you know, what is the criteria of sort of being invited? Is it just not being Russia and China? She said, well, let's not get into that so much. So, you know, it is what it is. It really is a counter to China and Russia, and as you mentioned, the setbacks that the United States have mentioned. And we'll wait and see what comes out of it and what kind of, really does it have a backbone to move forward. but who can argue with not being on the side of free and fair election, human rights, and counter-terrorism and counter-corruption, right?
Thank you very much, Susan. That was Susan Tarani joining us live from New York City.